There's a lot of debate these days about like women's reproductive rights. A lot of it's focused on abortion, as if that is the only like reproductive rights issues that women have had. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that way? Like, are you aware of other reproductive right issues that women have experienced throughout the years?
Not that comes to mind necessarily.
I'm going to talk about forced fertility. In 1974, according to the federal government, women do not need their spouse's consent to get their tubes tied.
Federal government's stance, are there any laws or statutes about it? Or is it just like, hey, this is our opinion?
Went to the Supreme Court and they ruled that spousal consent is unconstitutional, but they never issued a judgment on the matter, so it's not resolved.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh, that is not right.
Yeah, and then ACOG, which is the governing body, just put out like an advisory in 2017, like advising against denying women.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So,
all right, it's different than I thought it was.
Doctors are also significantly more likely to discourage a patient from undergoing surgical sterilization if she's younger, has fewer children, and is not in full agreement with her husband. If the husband is not in agreement, like so many OBs will not do it. If the husband's not in agreement.
But they'll do a vasectomy regardless.
No problems.
They don't even ask about the wife's opinion, right?
No. No.
That is so.
And the excuse always is, oh, you might regret it. Statistically, the number of women that regret getting their tubes tied is not that different than the number of men who regret getting a vasectomy. I think it's like 7% or something. Some studies for women say up to 13%. It's definitely not a majority.
Yeah, so like it doesn't make any sense for the red tape to be different between the two procedures. So could you say that part of the passion that women have that's related to specifically like abortion, that is in the that's what's in the headlines all the time, that part of the passion there is that abortion is like the tip of an iceberg of a whole slew of reproductive right issues?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any. It's like it's just remnants of an oppressive past. Exactly. It just continues because people haven't wanted to change it at the hospital level or federal law level.
Yes, this is why women are very protective of reproductive rights. This is not just what's in the media today. This has existed for a long time, the government trying to control fertility of women. The governing agency of gynecology says that no one should be denied sterilization. They released in 2017 an advisory telling doctors not to condescend female patients that are wanting their tubes tied, and that a request for sterilization in a young woman without children should not automatically trigger a mental health consultation.
And has that traditionally happened?
Yes, and if you're below a certain age, wanting your tubes tied. As part of their advisory, they warned physicians against paternalism because the excuse is, what if you want babies in the future? Well, what if you're not done yet? Or you're too young to make that decision?
Oh, but it's her decision anyway.
Certain policies that hospitals have that if you're below a certain age, you have to jump through all these hoops to get it done because you're too young. Now, let's say you have no kids and they still don't want to do it on you, because what happens if you get married and you have kids? They won't even do it on lesbians.
But what's their rationale for not?
Because they don't want you to regret it, and they're worried. They just think that it's best for you. I'm guessing that it has to do with repercussions. Hopefully, it's not just all paternalism. If you are using federal funds to do this, aka Medicaid, you can't get sterilized under 21, and you have to have a 30-day waiting period after you sign the consent form. I had this happen in the OB a lot, where women came in, they were having a baby, planning on getting their tubes tied, but that consent form had been signed 25 days before.
Okay.
And then they went into labor and had to deliver. They had to come back, get their tubes tied. Or else their insurance wouldn't cover it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So even if it's a C-section, so privately insured women have more of a privilege.
So for me, the parenting of the patient is really rubbing me the wrong way, because if the physician is saying to the woman, you might want kids in the future, as an example, whole slew of more problems when, oh, maybe your husband will want kids in the future, or oh, maybe your hypothetical husband, or maybe your hypothetical changing your sexual orientation and then getting married to a man who happens to want, putting that aside for a second, just the fact that they're saying, hey, you might want kids in the future, I'm not going to do it. So by implication, what the physician is communicating is that the physician does not believe that the woman has thought through the implications of this, has thought through the longevity of the decision and things like that. So you're basically thinking, like, you're basically believing about the woman that either at some level she is not capable of making this decision for herself. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because that's really what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
You don't believe in her judgment and that she's thought things through or is making a sound decision, that she's thought about it, maybe asked for advice about it, done research. You're not trusting any of that, and you just think, you need me to step in here and say no because you might regret this. Which seems like a parent and child, not two adults having a conversation.
There's no law against not needing your husband's consent. And let me tell you a couple testimonies of these women. A lot of people don't think this is still a thing. This one girl started pursuing a tubal ligation at 27, which physicians refused to even discuss it with her, telling her she was too young and might change her mind about having children in the future. So she was denied.
Dude.
For more than a year, she kept trying, and finally, she went with her 28-year-old husband overseas, and she was able to get her tubes tied. Another person visited multiple doctors in Indiana who required consent from her father.
Whoa!
Because she was unmarried.
That, I don't know why that feels that much worse than husband. Like, husband feels bad, don't get me wrong. But you're talking to, like, an adult woman needs her dad?
A third person who was seated next to her wife during the appointment, aka two women, was denied a hysterectomy for endometriosis just in case she wanted to have children with a man in the future.
Dude, these are some wacky decisions.
Yeah, this was in 2004. That she told her OB she wanted her tubes tied after delivery. This was her last kid. She didn't want it anymore. And she was single at the time. And the OB refused because she might get married again and the new husband might want children. In 2020, a social media person in Washington, she was a mother of two, she was told she needed to obtain her husband's signature to proceed with an elective tubal ligation. When she asked her doctor if his consent was required by law, the doctor replied that it was not required by law, but it was required by their hospital's policy. Paradoxically, men seeking sterilization through vasectomy are rarely denied the procedure, and it's uncommon that they're ever asked to obtain spousal consent.
Dude.
Well, I wonder if that person did have, let's say they had a legal spouse, okay? And if the OB is like, no, you're too young, I don't want to do this, you might want more children or whatever. Why aren't more men getting sterilized? It's a 20-minute procedure. You go into the urologist.
Oh, that's interesting.
They do local anesthetic. The reversal rate's about 95%.
Yeah, that I honestly don't know why. I don't understand.
So 700,000 women decide to get their tubes tied every year, compared to 500,000 men getting a vasectomy. And so because women are the ones that have to deal with the consequence of a pregnancy, they typically take the primary role in assuming birth control, which is total sexism, because it's a couple's responsibility, not just a woman's. Also, there's more of an argument for men to become sterilized because, very few women can really actually get pregnant and carry to term after 40 years old or so. Men. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, women can only carry one baby at a time. Men can make a baby every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Wouldn't their fertility need to be more controlled?
Yeah. Take the bullets out of the gun.
It's,
you know what I mean?
Males' fertility is more viral. They have suppressed female fertility one way or the other, whether it be forced fertility or forced sterilization, which we're going to talk about next. The fact that there's been no major reform with birth control and the side effects that are literally life-threatening shows the value that society, pharmaceutical companies, science holds women in. Shouldn't there be a safer option? If guys were throwing PEs, blood clots, mental breaks.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on the market.
No way it'd be on the market.
No. Nope. just make a freaking better product. Like, do more R&D if you need to. Spend the actual money. You have it, pharmaceutical companies.
Well, women have been fighting for a long time. Men are going to have to start fighting for women.
Yeah.
To make that happen. Like, I don't want my wife dying just because they don't want to get pregnant from you.
You have to hurt them with money, I feel like. But it's like, oh, well, people aren't going to stop buying it because it's not another alternative that's as viable, consistent.
You add in a doctor's deciding that you can't get your tubes tied now because you're too young. Your future husband might want it. You're a lesbian now, but who knows later.
Yeah, that was wild.
You can be put under general anesthesia and a woman can get unauthorized pelvic exams, even if they're not there for that. Okay, so then you go back to the issue of the reproductive rights for women. Actually, it is a big deal. We can't lose rights because that's just the tip of the iceberg of what has happened.
Yeah. Well, if you let one thing go, what else is going to happen? One thing gets affected, you have all these other sensitive, vulnerable areas. Like, you don't know what they're going to try and change for you next.
It's the butterfly effect. We are not taught about our bodies. People might disagree with this.
Oh, yeah, I will. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to say.
There has been a profound lack of education about women's bodies, how they work, when you can get pregnant, what even your cycle is, what happens during your cycle, what are the phases of your cycle, when are you fertile, what are signs of fertility? And it's scoffed at to even think we could know that much about our body, even if it's not for preventing pregnancy. Girls deserve to know about their bodies.
Yeah.
The way they make it sound in school, or the way that even religious circles make it sound like, is that like if you ever have unprotected intimacy, you're going to get pregnant. That's like how they make it feel.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Every week, I have at least one, maybe two, women that come in that say, I didn't think I could get pregnant. Because they start having schmacks, they don't get pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
They don't get pregnant.
So they just think they think they can't?
They think they can't. They think they're infertile.
They don't realize that there's only certain times of the month where
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's very lucky.
Yeah, but when you're talking about only being really fertile like 3 days out of the month, even let's just say a week out of the month. Yes, it is lucky, but 3/4 of the time you're doing that, you're not going to be fertile. Every week, usually multiple clients will come in and be like, didn't know I could get pregnant. Do you have any medical conditions? No. Oh, what made you think that you couldn't get pregnant then? For last year, I haven't. So I just thought I wouldn't. I thought I was infertile.